And it's a series in which we're kind of making our way through different parts of the book of Proverbs. One of my favorite parts of the book is chapter 8. It's a passage that we read the first week when I was here. In chapter 8, wisdom is personified. It's really interesting. Wisdom becomes a person who stands at the city gates, who meets people at the intersections of the highways and calls out to them and says, "Come, listen to what I have to say. My words are truth. My instruction is good. Come and listen." And then wisdom says this, "What I have to give you is far more valuable than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with it." You and I can have all the money, we can have everything it buys, we can have all the rubies of the world. But without wisdom, life can easily get derailed and become an absolute mess, right? You can have all the money and not know what to do with it. That'd be one problem. The other problem of not having wisdom is that you have no way of knowing how to navigate life's difficult relationships. Anyone have a difficult relationship in their life, right? No real sense of how to do that. When faced with complexity, which we are faced with every day, we desperately need wisdom to know how to move through that complexity. So in this series, we've been trying to look at how wisdom, or what wisdom has to say about a number of different topics, if you will. Anybody remember some of the things we've covered along the way? We've talked about wisdom and... Are you all new to this series? You've never been here before? Well, this is great. We talked about wisdom and money the last time I was here. Wisdom and money. Yep. PC, I think last time talked about wisdom and emotional well-being. We talked about wisdom and making wise decisions. PC today is at the branch is talking about wisdom and friendships. He'll be doing that one here next week. Today we're talking about wisdom and words. Wisdom and words. Did you know that the most recent studies tell us that on average we speak about 13,000 words a day? Well, some of you knock that number out of the park. I know you do. And some of you come in under that number, but on average, somewhere, the point is, an awful lot comes out of this device right here. Every day, words are just spewing forth. So it's no surprise that the second most covered topic in the book of Proverbs is our speech. So what we're going to think about today is what does it look like to be wise with our words? And our conversation is going to center around three ideas: the power of our words, the quality of our words, and the healing of our words. And there should have been on a seat or a seat near you a little handout. And I went crazy again and made an outline and had blanks. And so if you're that kind of person, again, blessings to you. It's your lucky day. The power of our words, the quality of our words, the healing of our words. Let's start with the power of our words. And I need your help here. Finish this childhood phrase for me. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Words, names will never hurt me. I actually found that to be a helpful phrase as a kid, because when I would receive a word that might kind of cut me down, I would listen to this and I'd go, yeah, I'm not going to let that, thing that person said, I'm not going to let it own me. And so it would like steal my resolve, and I would try and rise above it. But the reality is that saying is wrong. Names do hurt. Words do cut. The book of Proverbs reminds us of this, that there's a great deal at stake about what comes out of our mouth. In chapter 12, verse 18, Proverbs says this: "The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing." When a sword pierces someone, You ever thought about this? You can pull out the sword and the wound remains. It is that way with our words as well. You can say something that cuts someone's heart and try and take it back or even extend forgiveness. It doesn't necessarily mean, though, that the wound is suddenly gone. On the flip side, though, there's good news here, too. The tongue of the what? What does it say? The tongue of the wise brings healing. Wisdom is far more valuable than rubies because when wisdom is applied to our speech, it can heal and restore people. Our words are immensely powerful. This is affirmed in chapter 18:21. I'm too far. I'll just read this one. Here it is. The tongue, you probably know this. Someone actually said it to me this morning when they knew we were talking about words. They said, "Oh, you mean that the tongue has the power of life and death?" Yeah. And those who love it will eat its fruit. The tongue has the power of life and death. Now, does that feel a bit exaggerated to you? It shouldn't, if you think about it for a moment. Words have fueled hate, have they not? Led to wars, prompted murder. I mean, literally, words lead and cause death in the extreme cases. But just take your own life. Words can also pierce our dreams and our hopes. Words can wound our self-esteem. Words can cut us down. Words can create doubt. Words can cast a shadow of fear. You've all experienced this. I know you have. Words have the power of death and the power of life. It's both. Sometimes when I get done preaching, I get done and almost immediately I start to kind of beat myself up. Oh, you suck. That was terrible. You're horrible. How long have you been doing this? You didn't connect with anybody. I mean, and I start in this little self-talk, which, by the way, a little side note here. When we're thinking about the things we're thinking about today, let's not just consider the words that we say to other people, but also the words that we say to ourselves. Okay? So I say some things, and my words to myself have the power of death sometimes. And I enter this like downward vortex, spiraling circle of despair. I can come home after that, and my wife can say to me, very simply and casually, "You did a great job today." And that whole vortex starts spinning the opposite way and up. And it's a gift of life to me. I know you've experienced this. I know you know what it's like to experience life-giving words. Words that make your heart dance. When someone says to you, "You can do this," you go, "Yeah, I can do this." Someone simply says to you, "I love you," even though you're a total idiot, it just kind of helps. Okay, you're with me, puts you at peace. Right? Words can give life. We have incredible power with our words. So, maybe the next question is, what do life-giving words look like according to the book of Proverbs? What qualities do they have? Let's talk about that. We're going to talk about 4 things, 4 qualities that the book of Proverbs uses to describe our words. And these are not the only 4. Could have picked probably double this many, but, you all have lunch to get to, and I didn't want to ruin your plans. So 4 of them today. And the first one we'll tackle here is that our words, God calls our words to be honest. Chapter 12, verse 17, you can't see the 7 there. Chapter 12, verse 17 says this: "An honest witness tells the truth, a false witness tells lies." That may feel a little elementary to you, like, okay, sure. An honest person tells the truth. Next, let's just pause for a moment and consider how hard it is to actually do this. How hard it is to be honest with our speech. I'm a people pleaser. It's part of my personality. Which means that I often withhold the truth because I want people to like me. You know? I don't want to rock the relationship. I don't want to create tension where there doesn't have to be any. And so I withhold the truth sometimes. I'm not honest with my speech. And what I tell myself when I'm withholding the truth is that, I don't want to stir up trouble. What it's taken me so long to figure out, though, is that what causes trouble actually in my relationships is when I'm not honest. I can withhold truth and keep things kind of still and calm for a bit, but it only delays the inevitable. Honesty is critical to a flourishing relationship. Maybe that's why chapter 10, verse 18 says this is a really interesting verse. Chapter 10, verse 18. Whoever conceals, hides hatred with lying lips and spreads slander is a fool. Very interesting. Proverb is saying that if you conceal and hide, withhold hatred, isn't that something we should always kind of cover up? Well, actually, the Proverb says if you're angry at somebody, you need to talk about it. To cover it up with lies, with lying lips, is foolishness. What's perhaps even worse is instead of having a direct conversation, an honest conversation with the person you're angry with, if you instead slander, which is in Hebrew to whisper, that's what the Hebrew word means. Instead of having a direct conversation, you whisper to someone else about that person. It's foolishness. It does not lead to life. So, how are we doing on this one? Honesty. Our honest words. How are you with this? Is there something in your life that's kind of blinking red at you in this moment that God is saying, hey, we need a course correction on this? Here's the deal, though. Honesty alone is not enough. We also need gentleness. Honesty and gentleness. The two have to go together. Proverbs 15:4 says this, gentle words are a tree of life. RiverTree. It's a tree of life, gentle words. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. A deceitful tongue is a dishonest tongue. A dishonest tongue crushes the spirit. A gentle word, on the other hand, is like a tree of life. Which is why in just a little bit earlier in the chapter, that was verse 4. Here's verse 1. Proverbs 15 says this, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Have you ever been in an argument? And man, you're bringing truth. Every word out of your mouth is honest, but it lacks gentleness. Ever been in that situation? If you've been there, then you know that what happens is things just continually escalate. Anger gets stirred up. I'm as guilty of this as anyone on the planet. And God has often, this is one of my life verses, a verse that kind of keeps showing up in my life. Because I don't do this well, especially with my wife, if I'm honest, and it's easier because she's not here. But, this is not easy. But it's so important. Because in those moments where I have heeded the call of the Spirit and have responded with gentleness, the whole tone of the conversation shifts. And we can actually start having a conversation. We're used to kind of elevating and escalating. Oh yeah, you said this, well I'm going to say this. I'm going to bring some truth to you today, Honesty and gentleness have to go hand in hand. The third thing that the book of Proverbs says to us is that our words have to be fitting. Oh man, this is a good one, folks. Our words have to be fitting. Wise words are the right words at the right time. Chapter 10, verse 32 says this: "The lips of the righteous know what finds favor." Get that? The lips of the righteous know what finds, they know what to say, and when to say it, and how to say it. Their words are fitting. But the mouth of the wicked, only what is perverse. Chapter 25, verse 11, let me just read that. Here it is. "A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver." Isn't that an incredible image? A fitting word is something exquisite. It's a masterful work of art. Because you see, your words and mine can be honest and gentle, but those two things alone aren't always enough. They also have to be fitting, well-timed, appropriate for the moment. You ever been in a situation where you've said something that maybe was honest and maybe was gentle, but it didn't land? Ever been in a moment like that? This usually happens to me when I'm not listening well. The person I'm talking with is talking about this thing over here, and I'm kind of, listening, but I'm also thinking about my own things and what I'm going to say next. And so then I say something that's honest and gentle, perhaps, but it falls completely flat. There's no connection. There's kind of a blank look. Are you here with us all right now? It just doesn't, it's not fitting for the moment. Or there are times when I'm in a really significant conversation where the stakes are high, and I'm trying to weigh what to say. And it's in those moments that I often will honestly cry out silently in my own mind and heart, "God, help. Is this the right thing to say? I have something that's honest and gentle to say here. I think I can deliver it with kindness. I think it's something important to say, but is this the right time for it?" That's where wisdom comes in. Wisdom is knowing when to speak. So are your words fitting? Are they fitting? Which really fits right into this last one of our words being restrained. Prudent. As chapter 10, verse 19 says, "Sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues." 29:20 says this: "Do you see someone who speaks in haste? There is more hope for a fool than for them." Ooh, okay. Just bringing it this morning, What makes us wise with our words, the way that we know that wisdom is starting to kind of take hold, is that there will be times when we have something to say, but we will know that we shouldn't say it. There are times in life when it is wise to hold your tongue, when less is most certainly more. And I find this difficult in 3 areas. See if you can relate to any of them. I find it really difficult to be restrained in my speech when I've been wronged. When someone has wronged me, do you know what I want to do? Almost immediately, I want to go tell someone about how I've been wronged. You won't believe what this person did to me, I want to find someone to be sympathetic towards me. I want someone to say, "Yeah, that person, they're terrible. How could they do that to you?" Right? Which is the whole whispering slander thing that we talked about a few verses back. I find it really hard to be restrained when I've been wronged, when I've been accused. You ever been accused? What's a very typical human reaction in that moment? Yeah, you want to defend yourself, right? And so words just start coming and coming and coming and coming. Because how could you accuse me of that? I have such a solid defense. Sit down, this is going to take a while, and off we go. And the third time, or the third kind of moment that I often struggle with this one on, is when I want to impress somebody. Right? Two people are talking about something, they've had a shared experience, and I'm thinking to myself, I've done that. In fact, mine was even better. And I'm just waiting for the moment to get in on that conversation because I want to get in there and I want to impress these people with, right? Our words are to be honest, gentle, fitting, and restrained. Now, if you look at that list, and if you've been sitting here this morning kind of thinking to yourself, do I do those things? Are my words reflective of those qualities? You might be a little discouraged. Because it's really hard to be wise with our words. Which really begs the question, how do we become people who live wisely with our speech? How does that actually happen? Chapter 16:23 says something that's important when we're thinking about the healing of our words. A wise person's heart makes his speech wise, and it adds persuasiveness to his words. What is it that makes wise speech? A wise heart. Jesus connects and expands on this truth in Matthew 12:33 and 34. He says this, "Make a tree good, and its fruit will be good. Or make a tree bad, and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is recognized by its fruit. You brood of vipers," he's talking to the religious leaders, not you, don't worry. "How can you who are evil say anything good?" And then here's the critical part. "For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of." Now, in a biblical from a biblical perspective, in the Bible, the word heart is that place out of which our emotions come. But also in the Bible, the heart also is the place out of which our intellect arises and our will. It's a very all-encompassing idea, biblically speaking. Our thoughts, our emotions, and our desires all come from the heart. In other words, the heart is the place out of which you decide what matters most and what you're going to give your life to. And if we want to be people who are like a tree of life, we have to ask ourselves, what is filling up my heart? What is at the root of my thoughts and my emotions and my desires? One more passage this morning. This is John 1, verse 1. "In the beginning, the Word," which is an expression, a phrase here for Jesus. "In the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him." And then this, "The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it." Jesus, the Word made flesh. An interesting way to think about Jesus, isn't it? God's Word coming and being clothed in humanity brings with him life and light. That is what he gives to our hearts. And if your words and my words are to give life to other people, then our lives must be rooted in the Word. In the Word. Willpower alone isn't enough. You ever gone home from a sermon like this and been like, all right, Let's do this. I'm going to make my words wise. I'm going to roll up my sleeves, and this is going to happen this week. Right? Anybody ever done that? Like, yeah, let's do this. Come on. And so you do, and you maybe put some things in place to try and help with that, and that's good. And you get a couple days in, and then just things, whatever, that conversation happens, and you totally lose it, and you find yourself defaulting to the things that you know. How do we actually become transformed people with our words? It can't just be willpower alone. Our hearts have to be changed. And what that means, especially thinking about today, is that the Word made flesh, has to take root more and more into our emotions and our desires and our thoughts. If that can happen, if the Word made flesh can find a dwelling place in us more and more, then His words the power of His words begin to change us. And if you think about Jesus' words, there's perhaps never been anything more powerful. Do you remember this story? 10 lepers are at a distance. They're like on the other side of the gym, because lepers had to stay distanced from everyone else. It was part of the social code. And they see Jesus coming, and they cry out to Him, "Son of David, have mercy on us." In unison? I don't know. But nonetheless, Jesus gets, He hears them, and He shouts back, "Go to the temple." And on their way, they are healed. It's His word alone that heals them. He doesn't touch them. He doesn't sit down and give them a 30-minute teaching that they then have to go home and implement. He just speaks the word. Or the centurion who comes and says, "My servant is at home dying." And Jesus, I don't even think you need to come to my home. I think you have enough power that if you just say the word, he will be healed. And so Jesus does. And when the centurion gets home, guess what's happened? The servant is well. Jesus' words are the most powerful thing in the world, because it is actually by the very word of God that everything we know was created. And so if that word, the word, can take root in our lives, if His words can speak to us, then we will be changed, and our words as a result will be changed as well. So here's what I want to do to close this morning. I want to invite you to close your eyes, because that helps, if nothing else, just clear out distractions. And I want you to listen to these words that God has spoken over us. Because maybe the thing to do this week is, maybe you need to roll up your sleeves a little bit. But along with that, maybe this week the thing to do is to just let God's words wash over you and take root in you. Because what God says to you is that you are His daughter or His son. God says to you that you are His child. His child in whom He takes great joy. God delights in you. In fact, the scriptures say that God dances and sings over you. You are valued beyond your understanding. God speaks those words to you today. And as God's children, God says to us that as far as the east is from the west, so are our sins removed. We are washed clean, made as white as snow. The old has gone and the new has come. Because you are God's child, God is ready, already has begun, and is ready to continue to transform you. And as God's child, the scriptures tell us that we can come boldly to the throne of grace. We can make our request known. Because we are loved, you are loved. And God's promise is to provide for you what you need. God, may your word take root and make a home in our hearts. Amen.